Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Steps. It is Friday, December 16th. We love sharing these Fridays with you all, and we're excited to be capping off our guest series, our Friday guest series with Jan Dunn today. And we're going to be talking about how dance educators can implement some of the trends that we're seeing in dance medicine and science research and apply that to the structure of their program and the day-to-day to start seeing hopefully an improvement in just overall dancer health. But before we do that, I know it's been a really heavy week for us here, and I know for so many of you. Um, it's we want to send. I guess we want to start by sending our love and energy to the friends and family of Stephen Twitch Boss, especially his wife Allison Holker and their three beautiful children. As they deal with the fallout from the tragic loss of this just incredible light, the talent, the leader that was this man. I can personally tell you that and I've interacted with him on several occasions, and everything that you're reading is absolutely true. He was a light in any room that he stepped into. He led with kindness. He was a shining example of what it was like to really see people, and he did that in every single situation that he was in. Just your world was better for being just in his presence for just a second, even. So the dance community is absolutely devastated this week by the loss of this amazing talent. Beyond the steps, Melissa, we've talked a lot over the last couple years about mental health and mental health for dancers, and how it's such it's just something that's kind of accepted that we all struggle with, and there's not a lot of talking about it. And I think this is just a really, really strong reminder about how we need to talk about it and keep having these conversations. And we're on the right track in talking about it so much, because it is a struggle. You can look like you have it all together on the outside and that you're happy and you light up the world, and still not feel right on the inside. And I think that's just more than anything out of this week, all the posts that I'm seeing, like I think that's a very common thread among so many of us. I had a friend of mine, and I don't think that she would mind me sharing this, but it was kind of like the best. My questions, and I know, Melissa, you and I talked about this too, like my questions in hearing the news were really like, this can't be, this doesn't make any sense, this makes no sense. I know this person, like I understand, like this does not make sense. And she kind of wrote this on her Facebook page, and I stole it, and I want to share it with all of you. But she said, people often sometimes say you are loved, you matter. And I would say that's not always how suicidal people feel. Sometimes they don't feel hopeless in the way that you might think. Sometimes and value how loved you are, especially by your family, and how you love them just as much. You even love life and find so much beauty in it, but it's an intense battle in your brain that you just want to stop. The way I described it to my husband when I went through it was that my brain was torturing me minute after minute, and I was so tired. I'm incredibly grateful to be on the other side, and I hope I never have to experience that again. And that was her personal experience going through that. And I just thought it was, my brain was torturing me. And when you can't escape that and you feel like, I just want this to go away, maybe that helps some people understand how, somebody could get to that point, and still look happy on the outside, right?
Yeah.
Because there are so many people struggling, we want to make sure that we're sharing resources about mental health as well, and we'll continue to do that every Friday on the show. But the most important being the National Suicide Prevention Hotline by dialing 688. I think it's really, really, really important that we all understand that number and make sure that we have it on hand and share that with somebody that may need it. Our friends at Dance Equity Education Equity Association, or DWEA, are hosting an online Zoom support session for anyone ages 18 and up. And this session is going to be led by a licensed mental health counselor associate named Brianna Davis. This group is going to utilize movement and conversation, so all the love languages of our dance community to for people that are participating to experience the wide range of emotions they might be feeling, as well as dealing with the tragic loss to this community. To register for the session, they're going to ask you to complete a form. This is completely free, but we're going to put that form here in the chat for you. But it's trifecta of change.typeform.com. You fill that out, and then you will get a link to join the session, and that is happening on Saturday. So if you're somebody who's struggling and processing this is a great resource for you by our friends at Dance Education Equity Association. You can find them on Dance Equity Association on Instagram. And just, the last thing I want to say is take care of yourselves. And, I loosely say check in with those that you love. I think that's been said a lot this week, but I think you really have to have some deeper conversations if you think somebody is struggling, and trying to get people to talk to those licensed mental health counselors, because it's a big thing to try to tackle on your own. But yes, checking in with your loved ones is a great place to start. Sometimes it's much deeper and much harder than that, but checking in is a good place to start. So take care of yourselves through all of this. Protect your peace as always. And again, don't forget these important resources that you're sharing. We're sharing today, and we're going to share those also at the end of this session. But again, sending our love and energy to the family and friends of Stephen Twitch Boss. I know he will be missed, and the loss is going to be felt for a very, very long time. So, Melissa, so let's get started with our episode today, and tell us a little bit about Jan for those that don't know. I know she's been with us a few times already this season, so we're so grateful to have her back.
Yes, absolutely grateful to have Jan with us here. Jan is a dance educator and dance medicine specialist in Savannah with a BS and MS in dance science. She's the co-founder and co-chair of Bridge Dance Project, co-director of Denver Dance Medicine Associates, and is a dance wellness educator for dancers.org. Previously, she was dance faculty and dance wellness coordinator with several universities, including University of Colorado at Boulder and Loyola Marymount University. She was involved in the founding of IADAMS, serving as president, executive director, and on the board of directors from 1990 to 2012. She's the chair of the NDA Committee on Dance Medicine and Science, co-chair of the International Dance Medicine Conference, Taiwan in 2004, and co-founder of the Journal of Dance Medicine and Science. Finally, like we said, she is the co-founder of Bridge Dance Project, which is a great friend to Beyond the StEPS, Apollo, and Turning Point Dance Creations. Jan, welcome back.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I'm really happy. I'm really happy to be here. I have to kind of laugh at that long string. You get a certain age and it just goes on and on and on. I'm really proud of the Bridge Dance Project.
Should be.
One last thing. It's like, okay, we're going to do this. At least in the dance competition world, dance medicine and science has integrated ballet and academic dance and so many other venues, but it hasn't really reached into competition dance. So that's our menu. But I'm very much looking forward to sharing with you whatever answers I can give to the questions you might pose.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's clear that the health of dancers is the mind, body, and soul. Mind, very top of mind for us this week. As a community, we have had a tough reminder about that with the loss of Twitch. This conversation is putting an end cap on our first guest series with you that we talked about a lot of different things around dance science and medicine. But I want to talk a little bit about where you'd like to see the industry go in regards to dancer health and wellness over the next 5 years.
Next 5 years. I didn't see that in the notes.
Or 3 years. Just
or 3 years, or even how about the next
ahead.
year? The next
Yeah.
year. Yeah. I would like to see, again, in particular, because my focus right now is competition dance, versus some of the other venues, dance venues that I've worked in and that have already seen good integration with dance medicine and science. But that hasn't happened in competition dance. I would just love to see more and more integration of this work into that particular field in the studios, in the competition conventions, and in the community in general. That is where I would like to see all of this go. And we can talk about some specific ways. On the list of suggestions that you sent me, I made notes on specific ways that teachers in particular can go about helping to bring that kind of work into their studio. So,
Yeah, and I wanna piggyback on that because I think what I would love to see happen, speaking from the other end of it, Jan, is that like I want studio directors to have more accessibility to this information.
mm-hmm.
I think that if you have a strong background in the dance science realm, like where to look, right? But I can tell you, like Casey, Casey's that part of our business, right? But
Yeah,
I took anatomy and physiology. I get it, like I can follow along, but that I wish I would have had this information more accessible. I would have
yeah,
never known where to look for any of this when I was
yeah,
directing.
yeah.
You just don't, you know what you know, right? So like I wish it was more in your face, like you have to, it's so almost like mainstream. That's what I want to see with it because I don't think it is yet.
No, I don't think it is either. And that's what we are all about. All of the different
Yeah.
resources that, I have a whole list of resources here that I want to share. Some of which we've mentioned before, maybe some of which we haven't. I don't know, but I want to, since it's our last session like this, I want to recap them and make sure people are aware of them. But it's true, as you said, Bree, that oftentimes it's not in your face. You have to go
Hmm.
searching for it,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate. But we are just at the very beginning of this journey, and it's going to take a long time. So the more we do to just get the word out, and
Hmm.
hopefully maybe 5 years from now, you said 5 years, Melissa, 5 years from now, it will be in their face. It's not now, and I think it's going to take a long time. But that's what this is all about. Podcasts like this, and other people who have great websites, and yeah, we just
Yeah.
keep working at it.
I mean, I
Well, and it
think that,
helps that
go ahead.
it helps that COVID isn't shutting us down anymore either.
Yeah,
So like
Yes.
now we can
that does.
travel and interact
Yeah,
again,
we
right?
we
Like,
have more opportunity to
yeah,
actually be in relationship
Exactly.
with each other in person, but we also have to. We talk about, oh, we wouldn't have known where to go find this information. We
yeah,
have to also figure out how we're going to get this
Yeah.
information to them. So where are dance educators? We're sitting in auditoriums for 8, 12, 14 hours a day during competition weekends. How do you
great point.
join that time where you're sitting there with being able to give them access to information?
Yeah,
We're
Yeah.
in rehearsal spaces, we're in, like, there's so many places where we have to actually take the information to them,
yeah.
as
Yeah.
well. So that'll take some serious collaborative efforts, I think, by a lot of different
Yeah.
people in the industry.
Yeah, and it's, for all those competitions out there, like instead of like monetary donation, just think like partnering with somebody like the Bridge and just getting the literature and having something for people to look at and putting an insert in your, your program, and so they can browse while they're sitting in a chair, like Melissa said, for 16 hours. The Bridge is a nonprofit organization, like, but having them provide that information to the people that are attending your events would be kind of revolutionary and
Mhm.
very educational. So something to think about if you're out.
Exactly. Well, that's also something that we're going to be focusing more on in the next year. As you all probably know, and our listeners may or may not know, we had a big conference planned this past August
Yeah.
in Denver, which we had some terrific people lined up, very familiar names in the dance competition field who were going to be guest artists and speakers there. And we were a go until 6 weeks before, and then the city of Denver did a flip and instituted or reinstituted all the COVID restrictions. So
Oh, wow.
we were shut down literally just 6 weeks before the conference, which was difficult, and we're trying to move
Yeah.
on from that. We're working on virtual content that we can get out there, but we are also working on, or will be. Sorry, I have this one that does not want to cooperate here. Sorry.
Mm.
Okay. Ah!
That's
Told you.
okay. I've got one in too. I don't even put the
Yeah.
other one in.
Okay, well, I'm going to try because I can hear you guys a lot better if I have both of
Okay.
them. Um, so I just had a conversation today with some of our people about really increasing our social media presence.
Yeah.
And we really
Hmm.
need to do that on Instagram and Facebook and just get more and more stuff out there so that, for example, Bree, like you just said, when they're sitting in the auditorium, 8 hours with nothing much to do but just keep watching one thing after another, it's like, here, you can look at this or read this while you're doing it. So that's a great example of where we want to go with the bridge in the next year. We would like to have a live conference down the line again, but right now I think it's more important that we let people know who we are
Yeah.
and get more people aware of what we can do and how we can bridge that gap between dance medicine and science and the
Yeah.
competition world and get the information out there. So that's something we really want to focus on.
I'm so glad to hear it. It's much needed. And for those of you just joining us, we are Beyond the Steps. I am Bree with Apollo, Melissa with Turning Point Dance Creations, and we're chatting today with Jan Dunn about how dance educators can implement some of the trending topics that we're discovering from dance medicine and science research in their studios and their programs this year to make a difference in the overall health and wellness of their dancers. Such important things going on in dance medicine and science, and it's not always in your face, but there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, as Jan has repeatedly shown us. Every time she's here, we learn other things that are being done. So this series, this year we're doing a guest series where we have a guest expert join us once a month for 3 months to talk and dive deeper into their assigned topic. And Jan's was obviously dance medicine and science. We've talked about how it impacts the athletes, the performance athletes, the dancers, how it impacts their support systems and the parents. And now we're talking about dance educators. So this is perhaps probably the most important segment that we're going to do, because the dance educators hold the keys to, they design the
Mm-hmm.
curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
they really set the path of the season for the athletes and for these dancers. Parents trust them in some cases blindly with their children.
Yes.
And that can be risky depending on the level of education of that educator, right? So we would love to know, Jan, from you, which parts of dance medicine and science you really want to see educators putting a focus and a priority on this year in 2023. So I want to do today the top three, and let's start with you giving us number one. What would be the first thing that you would say?
Okay, I guess the first thing I want to say is that, we said right now that the resource and information is not in your face. No, you do have to go look for it. So let's just again emphasize how dance educators can do that. Where can they find these resources? There are a lot of really great online places you can go. So I just want to go over some of them so that people are aware of it and they can come back and look at this podcast again if they can't remember all of them, because I have a bunch here. Um, for example, on the Bridge Dance Project website, there are articles and videos on things like psychological awareness. We've already touched on that today. Dance flooring and how that affects injury. Hearing loss. This was something I actually didn't know until Dr. Stephen Karaginas, who is on our board, wrote an article about the tremendous impact that the high volumes of music in competition dances at the conventions and competitions, of how that impacts the dancers. I had no idea, and it was kind of shocking to read what he had to say about that. And hopefully people can maybe learn from that and turn the volume down a little bit. Um, Things like recovery from injury, nutrition. I may just let that one go like you are, Bree, and not worry about it. Um, those are some of the resources that are online with the Bridge Dance Project. There are many other websites out there that have great written and video resources. Like, I'm just going to run through them. The ballet blog, fordancers.org. That is the website that is primarily oriented toward ballet, but the information there is applicable to many different forms of dance. And when you go on their website, look under dance wellness, and you'll come up with a whole cadre of articles written by many people over many years that is tremendous information. Healthy Dancer Canada They have a great website with free resources and terrific articles. I printed out the list just so I could read a few of them. Post performance depression.
Oh,
Um,
wow. That's a good
understand,
one.
yeah, understanding hypermobility, dancer screening information, dancers and the art of stress management. There are a number of great resources on that particular website. And what I love about that particular website, and I'm going to say also about Bridge, because we're trying to do the same thing, and for dancers, is that they're not medical language. They're not
Hmm.
scientific type language. They are in everyday dance language aimed at dancers and their parents and their teachers. There's IADAMS, the Dance Medicine Organization. They have free resources as well. Those tend to be much more medically oriented. So if you aren't that well versed in medical terminology or scientific terminology, those may not be quite a good fit for you versus some of the others. There's two that are online websites from the UK, but they're excellent. One is, it's pronounced NIDAMS. It stands for National Institute of Dance Medicine and Science, which is in the UK. And then there is One Dance UK, which has had a healthier dance program for years. And they have excellent resources. There is, of course, Apala, which has many wonderful things on their website. There is City Safe in Dance International, which also has great resources. And that is also a great teacher training program for graduating teachers who are much more knowledgeable about all this kind of information. And then Doctors for Dancers, they are doing
Hmm.
podcasts and workshops that have wonderful information on them. So those are just some of the many, many resources that are out there. They're not in your face. No, you have to go look for them, but they're there. We have a decade, 2 decades of great information that's there if you know where to look for it. So I've wanted to give all those listings so people would have an idea where to go.
I
I
love
hope that.
that, and I think that's so helpful because that's what it is like, we all have the things on our phone that we go to automatically, right? Like, when I'm on my phone, I find myself automatically clicking Instagram,
Right.
Facebook, like Shopify to check the store and then the email,
Yeah,
right? Like, we all have those, like, apps that we check, and
yeah,
these things need to be part of that
yeah,
consistently because it's not like they're just putting them on there once a year. I mean, this is information that is constantly updated and available. We post a lot on our blog. We have some amazing blog writers that post
yeah,
for Paula on the Muse blog. But I mean, that is just a touchstone. Like, there are so many, like she said, I
yeah.
know, like, our friends at Dan Sun have tons of mental health resources that they give
Mhm.
away for free on their site. And, so there's so much out there. You just have to
Hmm.
know where to
Yeah,
get it.
thank you
So
for
I thank
mentioning
you.
that one.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for these because this is so
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah,
These are
there are
so
there are
helpful.
others. I didn't get all of them obviously, but we've mentioned a bunch here, and that going through that list and what you just mentioned, Dan Send, there's a lot of reading there for people in their spare
Yeah.
time sitting in the auditorium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely in your spare time, and we have a lot of it when
Yeah,
we are at competition. I have a follow-up question about getting the information to the masses, to the people. These days, information getting people don't take information unless it's, quote unquote sexy. How do we make this? How do we make dance medicine and science
I know.
sexy?
yeah, I
Yeah.
know that we were
I
actually talking about that this morning in the conversation that I mentioned I was having with a couple colleagues. Yeah, we actually were talking about that. About, I'm not sure the word "sexy" was used, but it was like to make it more catchy, to make it more. Oh, look at that! You
yeah.
know. So I don't know. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
when we can figure that out, we've got the holy grail,
Right,
right? Like,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
exactly. That could be a definite. Yeah, that's a great. I'm throwing this out to my dance medicine research colleagues right now, like Jeff Russell. It's like
Say, Dr.
get
Russell, how do we make it sexy?
yeah, get
Sexy. How
a
can you make it
graduate
sexy, Dr.
student on
Russell?
that. Get a graduate student to come up with a project like that. That
There
would be
you go.
fantastic.
They'll come up with it. And
Yeah.
you know what? I record their reaction when you ask them that so I can see it because
Right.
I'd
I
like
want to
to be a
repost
plant
it. I
mom.
can totally see his reaction like, "Oh, make it
I think
sexy,
that
huh?"
would be great. I think you
Yeah.
guys should do that and send it to me so I can see it. But no, you're right. That's what is needed, because so much of this information is very dry, and
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, you, because of today's world and social media, you have to be catchy, you have to be sexy in
And
your
quick.
terminology,
You
really,
have to be
and
And
quick.
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 It
Yeah,
has to be in a punch, and that's
yeah,
the thing with Apollo I can identify because we have so much info and we're constantly revising and editing down and how do we get this out with the least amount of words possible? And sometimes it's really, really hard when you want to make sure that you include all the scientific data and the research behind something, right? So,
yeah. It's
um,
difficult.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
have, I mean,
absolutely.
I don't know where you guys are going next, but I was following your format that you sent me, and I have Melissa's second priority next on my list, unless you
Yes,
have something you.
Yeah.
that's where I want to go,
That's
Jen. I'm
it.
going to my
That's it.
second priority.
Okay, well, your second priority was what can dance teachers do to help incorporate all this stuff? I would say one of the most important is to incorporate outside conditioning, and I'm putting quotation marks around it because it doesn't necessarily have to be outside. Meaning, number one, we know that dance training. The phrase in dance medicine is it intrinsically imbalances you. So if you think about what that means, intrinsically, by just the nature of dance training, traditional dance training, it imbalances the body. Let's go to ballet, for example. So ballet is all about turnout, turnout, turnout. So the external rotators in the body get way stronger than the internal rotators. And that creates imbalance in the hip joint, which leads to injury. So that's what that phrase means, intrinsically imbalances you. And different dance forms have different intrinsic imbalances because they work on specific positions more often than others. And so that's something that dance teachers can address. It doesn't mean they're going to be teaching a ballet class all in turn in. No, of course not. But they can certainly start by doing plies in parallel and maybe even plies in turn in a little bit, as well as the traditional turn out. Those are some really simple ways you can do that. But outside conditioning means that you are training the body in the ways that it's not being trained normally in the dance class, whether it's ballet or something else. And that is so important because we want the principle behind reducing risk in injury is balance around all the joints. All of the muscles around the hip joint, the knee joint, the shoulder joint should all be fairly well balanced in order to prevent injury at that joint. That's what the whole thing is all about. And that's what conditioning is all about, to bring the body parts that aren't that strong back into balance. And that can be done a number of different ways by the dance teacher. They can, by partnering with trainers who know this kind of information, or themselves if they know it. Um, just for example, 15 minutes at the beginning of class, uh, 3 days a week, doing those kinds of conditioning exercises before jumping right into actual classwork. That's one example of how they can do it. They can build into their dance curriculum a special conditioning class that is one or ideally 2 times a week, like a Pilates class would be phenomenal because that particular strengthening conditioning form has been in dance for years. And if it's well taught, it's incredibly valuable for dancers. You can also encourage dancers, if you can't do either one of those two things, you can encourage the teachers or encourage their students to actually get outside conditioning, like at a gym or something. That gets really tricky because number one, um, how is a trainer at a gym going to know what particular muscles the dancer needs to be, working on? And number two, if you're telling that to teenagers, especially, it's probably not going to happen on their
Right.
own.
Well, and I want to call out probably the top thing, which is that I think we have this almost this trending feeling of ownership in the dance world that when it can get to a toxic, unhealthy level, that you solely train under me and
Yes,
Hmm.
you will not train under anybody else and I will
yes,
not allow you to train under anybody
exactly.
else. And what the problem that causes is that there is no one dance teacher that can possibly know
Mhm.
everything, and I think you're really doing a disservice to the dancer when you limit them in that way, because
Exactly.
the thing about creating a well-rounded dancer and a healthy dancer is they need to be able to learn from different kinds of people, different perspectives, different ways of doing things, which
Hmm.
bolsters that creativity that we love about dancers. And I think when we fight against that, and when we restrict that, we're forcing someone to be in our box, and that's not the point
Exactly.
of dance. That's not the point. It's to create. It's to expand. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
do new.
The word that comes to mind when you're talking is territorial. Teachers can
Yeah.
be so
Yes.
So
territorial,
territorial, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I
and
think
that's
that's
just
the rub between the artistic and the business portion of dance. And that's what so many people go, oh, dance is not a sport because it's not competitive. Yeah, it is. And when you get when you get the business element of dance, meaning
yes,
the studio
exactly,
culture and the convention culture and the
exactly,
competition culture, then you get territorial because that's your living.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
your, that's your livelihood. And it does become very, it becomes a cat fight.
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
honestly.
That's exact. No, you're absolutely right. That is sad but true.
Well, and
Okay.
we have a comment on Instagram right now from Sumi Ryoko. That is why dancers need cross training. I think they meant to say, in alignment and energy work. Modern dance, like Cunningham technique, offer a balanced approach. Balance does not come from a mental understanding. It comes from physiological
Hmm.
awareness and sensitivity about alignment issues. I love that. Thank you,
Hmm.
Sumi, so
Hmm.
much for that information.
Agreed.
Um, yeah, Jan wholeheartedly agrees with that. So thumbs up. For those that are just joining, this is Beyond the Steps. Bree with Apollo here with my fabulous co-host and friend Melissa McDaniel. We're chatting today with the incomparable Jan Dunn to cap off our guest series, our first guest series of this season, but our last of the year. And we have Jan Dunn back with us, who is the co-founder of the Bridge Dance Project. And we're talking today about how to implement some of the dance medicine and science research at the studio level, at the competitive level, and how dance educators can do this and put this information to work, which is not easy to do. We've talked about making this information more accessible and how some resources. Jan gave a wealth of resources for you all
Mhm.
to access as you're sitting in those auditoriums this season, of places you can find fantastic articles, robust articles, and lots of information. So I think we have enough to keep you busy for the 2023 season for sure. And we also talked about some things that you can implement in the studio outside of the technique training. So, Jan, what is the third thing? What is that third final thing that you want
Well,
to share?
I liked your phrase that you sent me in the email of how do you encourage teachers to get off the old hamster wheel of just doing things the way they've always done it or the way they've
It's
been taught.
hard. It's
Of
so
course
hard because
it's
I
hard.
mean, if
Of
I'm
course
sitting
it's
here in
hard.
December and I'm like, I'm ordering recital costumes and I am, I'm signing up. If you're signing up for competitions still in today's world,
Yes.
You're
you're out of luck
behind.
because everybody's sold
They're
out.
full.
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
some cases, some people are already planning auditions for next season. So like
Yeah.
it's over. If like you're thinking about it now, you're late kind of
I
thing. So it's
know.
like
I know.
that? How do you get these people to do it where it still makes it into now and goes not, oh, okay, I'll do that later, and then it gets forgotten about or put, swept under the rug?
Well, I think, well, I liked your phrase hamster wheel. How to, what things can teachers do to kind of get off the hamster wheel and do different things in the studios? But since you're talking about competition, I'll also, and Melissa was talking about the business side of it. I'll put the two of those together in that when you're talking about reducing the risk of injuries for dancers, which is something that you as a teacher can do in your studio by implementing so many good practices or changing so many good practices and getting off the hamster wheel. Um, you are creating healthier dancers, and the bottom line is they win more. Healthier dancers are going to win more. That's just something to think about. An injured dancer is not going to do as well in a
Yeah.
competition. So,
I
whoa,
mean,
sorry.
that's coming down to brass tacks right there. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, of course.
Healthier dancers win more. Yeah.
Of course, and that's you know we want them to be healthy for their own sake, of course, for all the good reasons. But it's also to your advantage as a business owner, so it's just something to think about. But about the hamster wheel thing, um, one of the main things that I would really recommend teachers not do or try to stop your students from doing is stretching, heavy duty stretching before class. You know, sometimes you walk into a class and you see kids sitting there in their wide seconds, stone cold stretching. That is not good. We have good research to show that that's very detrimental. It can actually maybe increase the risk of injury. Um, and we know, for example, that it decreases the height of jumps in class when you do that. So it's not healthy for dancers to be doing that. Doing what's called light stretching as part of a warm up. And by that, it means literally, so if I take a bicep and I'm flexing the bicep and then I'm lengthening it, that's light stretching. This is the stretch part of that movement. So light stretching like that is healthy at the beginning part of a class. And then you save your heavy duty stretching for the end of the class in the cool down section. So that's one kind of thing that you can do to help your dancers integrate some of this information. Warm up, there's a lot of different information out there on how to build a really healthy warm up. And it might not necessarily be what you're used to doing in a dance class. And the other thing gets back to something Bree said earlier about I don't, I'm not even remembering the context where you said it, Bree, but it was about everybody being individual and needing their own information. In this case, every single body is different. What Bree needs for a warm up is not what I need for a warm up. Is not what Melissa might need. We have differing ages. We have different injury patterns that we might have had in previous years. All of that means, and we have different body types too. And all of that means that our bodies are all different in terms of what kind of warm up. So I know what it was, Bree. You were saying that no teacher can teach all of everything. It's the same thing. No teacher can teach a warm up that is going to be adequate for every single body in your class. So healthy dancers who are aware of all this stuff will start working on learning their own warm-ups, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes where they come in before class, before rehearsal, before a performance, and they do their own warm-up that's tailored for their body before they actually jump into dancing. Those are some healthy concepts that teachers can start to introduce from my perspective. Oh, sorry.
Muted. We know that warm up is important. Like, we know what you're saying is spot on, Jan, but we know from our other guests that have been on as well that a dynamic warm up is the way to go. It's no longer okay where we're just we're in a stretch and we hold it for 24 counts. Then it's not that anymore. It's moving through those positions until the muscles are really warm, so that you're not going from cold to hot, 0 to 60, right? But that dynamic versus static idea is very important for dancers. And then how you're going about that, Jan, you're saying we have to go even further and customize that for the dancer. So that might be, I'm just spitballing this, but like if you're a director and you've got a class full of people, like you could group them up and teach one little warm up over here for this segment of dancers that struggles with flexibility, and this one over here that struggles with, just maybe identifying them in smaller groups and teaching them a warm up that would work. And then maybe you come in and they're doing that warm up in the classroom on their own time for 10 minutes,
That's actually not an idea I've ever heard put forth, but it's a great idea, Bree.
I just popped in based on what you just said.
No, I think it was great.
See, I did this in my life at some point. I did.
You could. That's another potential project for a Jeff Russell graduate student.
That's right.
Man, we are getting Jeff's classes loaded this next semester. Dr. Russell, we got you.
But no, I'm serious. It's actually a really good idea, Bree. If somebody wanted to take that and run with it down the line.
Anyone out there has my permission to take that and run with it, go for it.
just credit the author.
No, I got enough going on. Just go for it.
And I don't know where we are on time, but the last thing that I wanted to really emphasize for what can teachers do to help integrate all of this stuff into their studio training and their studio is, last but not least, connect with a dance familiar or a dance friendly, if not familiar, medical person or trainer type person in your community. Frequently, that's a physical therapist or an athletic trainer. Doctors usually are way too busy, but you can find some who are interested, but they wouldn't be able to really have the time to connect with you like maybe a PT or an athletic trainer would. Um, make have a Find those people again, even if they're not dance familiar, they can be dance friendly, and that's what's needed. One of my very first connections with a woman who is now one of the best dance medicine physical therapists I know anywhere in the country. She is my partner at Denver Dance Medicine, Sarah Graham. She was a non-dancer, um, but when she met me, she got really interested in dance. This was many years ago, and she did, everything right as a non-dancer to learn about it. She took
Mhm.
dance classes, she watched classes, she went to conferences, she read all those different resources that we're talking about. So she became dance familiar. And that's the kind of person you maybe not quite to that extreme, but you want to find someone who is willing to learn if they don't already know. And there are
Mhm.
people out there, believe me, there are, because medical people sometimes just feel that dancers are fascinating and they like working with us.
Right.
They really do. That is
Um,
something I find is that
yeah,
when you tell somebody that you're a dancer, you have that background,
yes.
they're
Mhm.
intrigued,
Yes,
always.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. So sometimes you can catch their interest that way, but go into your community and try to make a relationship with somebody like that. And you'd be amazed at the kind of networking you can build with that and how your dancers can benefit by that. As you guys know, I just moved to Savannah a few months ago. I didn't know anybody in the dance community here. I'm making some contacts, and I've made contact already with lovely young physical therapist, Colby Seth. She has a company called Prehab Dance, which is about going into the studios and looking at dancers for what imbalances there might be that she could help them with. So I didn't know she was there, but I'm really happy to have found her. And we're talking about working together along with one other teacher right now. So you can make these connections. You have to go out and do it, but you can make these connections. And I would really encourage dance teachers to do that to benefit their students. So
Yeah.
that's my
Yes.
last suggestion.
Thank you.
Find the people in your community. Find your people, as they say. Find your
Yeah,
people, and if you
exactly.
are their people, reach out to those studios that are in your space. We're looking for you. We have a comment on Instagram. Alicia Horland. How would you suggest different warm ups for different types of dance as well? So different genres. Should there be different warm ups for different genres of dance as well?
That's a long topic and a long answer. So I don't really want to go into all of that now. There are definitely different body types.
Hmm.
Some people, as Bree mentioned earlier, are more flexible. Some people are tighter, and those types of bodies would need a different type of warm up. You wouldn't want to do the same flat out warm up for each person like that.
Hmm.
Um, warm up is actually it's a really interesting topic when you get into the research. There actually hasn't been an awful lot of it in dance. Um, and there are certain this I'm serious. I'm not being facetious. This would be a great topic to have someone like Jeff on to
Yeah.
talk
Hmm.
about, because I think this is much more his daily bread and butter right
We
now.
haven't done a warm up, like a strict warm up conversation, but I
I
do
think I
remember.
think you should.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah,
good one. But I do remember someone being on, Melissa. I don't, you're always better at remembering who said what when, but somebody said, and this really stuck with me, your warm up, they should warm up before every genre, but the warm up should include a little bit of the movement that's going to be being done in that
yeah,
class
yeah,
period for
yeah,
that genre. So if you're in tap,
yeah,
you're going to want to do work warming up those
yeah.
ankles and all the things. So
Exactly.
I know there's a lot more to it than that, Jan, but that did stick with me as like a
That stick
general
with you.
rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is
And then,
very true. That warm up has to be specific. So if, or just taking it into sports, if you're a baseball player, you want to be warming up with movements that practice throwing and hitting a ball. It's
like you would,
exactly the,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
Any
exactly the
muscles you're going to
same.
be utilizing, you want to
Exactly.
warm those up.
Yeah,
So
it's
yes, Alicia,
exactly the
short
same.
answer. Alicia, short answer to your question on Instagram, yes, but tune into 2023 because we got to do an episode with Dr. Russell about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
and one more quick thing on that topic, and then I'll quiet because there is new evidence and research in dance medicine. I just read a new article that just came out literally yesterday in the Journal of Dance Medicine and Science that has to do with, I am not familiar with all the terms in the sports world, but with certain types of sports neuromuscular warm-ups that are found to reduce injury risk in sports that are now starting to be slowly applied in a few areas in dance. And so it's going to be really interesting to see where that goes. But yes, I think that would be a terrific topic to have somebody here discussing that.
well, Jan kind of already gave us our homework, Melissa. So
Right. Yeah. I
we got
think
lots of
we have
homework.
our
Okay.
orders. We have our homework already. I think all three
Yeah,
priorities are probably our homework,
yeah,
but
I would
definitely,
agree. I would agree.
yeah, we got our homework. So let's talk about resources. Um, Jan, you had some resources. Did you list all of the ones that you wanted to give up there in the top? Awesome.
You
Awesome.
guys might be able to add to them, of course. Some that I
Yep.
don't know. Bree already
Yep.
mentioned one that I didn't think of.
Yeah, and we have those health resources we mentioned in the beginning.
Yes.
Again, there's lots of different numbers here to call, as well as the information for the DEEA Zoom session on Saturday.
Mhm.
If
Tomorrow,
you're
yeah.
somebody who is
Right.
struggling with the loss of Stephen Twitch Boss this week, they're doing a Zoom this
Can I
Yeah.
weekend.
say
And
can I say
we
what
go ahead. Go
Can I say
ahead.
Yeah.
one quick
Yeah.
thing about that? Because somebody mentioned this to me, and I think it's important. You know, we're talking about, yes, the DEA session tomorrow for those of us who are struggling, but also take care of your young dancers, whether they're your students or your own children who are dancers through this tragedy that we're all living through, because they may not have any idea how to process this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
Yes.
so that's something, there are resources out there for them as well that you can hopefully find, but I think that's important.
Yes, and we have a number of hotlines that we want to um, give everyone here while they are there with us. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dialing 988 will get you to someone that can help there. The National Sexual Assault Hotline, 800-656-4673, or online.rain, that's RAINN.org. The National Eating Disorders Hotline, 800-931-2237. You can call or text that number. The Trans Lifeline, 877-565-8860. And the National Drug and Alcohol Treatment Hotline, 800-622-4357. So those are all in the chat for you. If you need any of those or know anyone who needs any of those, or even think that you might know someone who needs any of those, please use them. And if you are a dance educator, a studio owner, or anywhere where students, parents congregate, it would be great to post these or have these available for people. Be a resource yourself. You don't always have to go looking for resources. You can actually be the resource. Thank you so much, Jan, for being with us
Thank you
today.
for having me. I very much enjoyed this whole series, and I very much appreciate your inviting me. Thank you again.
The series has been great. The series has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. You can find all of the episodes from the series on YouTube or Facebook at Apollo Performance at TP Dance Creation. So you can go back and listen to all of the shows from this series with Jan there, as well as all of the other shows that we've had from season 1, season 2, or season 3. We are on hiatus next week for the winter holiday break, but we will be back with Beyond the Steps episodes for you in January, starting January 6th. And we also have a new series next season with Aisha Upchurch. So there will be a 3-part series with Aisha, who I don't think was on last season, was on first season a couple of times, and it's absolutely awesome. So please be on the lookout for that. We have a very exciting year planned for you. Please share these episodes. Please comment on them if you're rewatching them. We do look at those, so please make sure you do that. And if you have an idea for a topic, info@apolloperformance.com or Melissa at turningpointdancecreations.com. You can do that as well. Our team at Apollo and Turning Point Dance Creations and Beyond the Steps wishes your family a happy, healthy, safe holiday season. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. And until next time, we hope you continue your journey beyond the steps. We will see you in 2023. We love you
Happy
guys.
holidays.
Hi, happy holidays, everybody.
Bye.